Hey, everybody. Well, there's not really anyone here yet, but I am thoroughly looking forward to seeing you guys. Um, we are just loading up here as people are coming in to listen and ask questions. So I am, as probably all of you know, Raythe of Raythe Rain. Hey, Annie. She says hello. Hi, Raythe. Hi back at you. Say hello once you get into the chat. Let me know what your drink and snack is if you've got one. I've actually got, I'm probably going to have to go refresh my drink as it is. Lo says hello. Hello, Lo. Myra says hello. Hello, Myra. It is awesome to be doing our second reading and question of the month. I missed you guys. So as we're all like filtering in here, I hope you guys are having a good Saturday. I am still in the afterglow of the release of Cinders and Ashes. For those of you who have left reviews on Amazon, thank you so very much. It's been such a joy to read them. I read and reread them and hold them close to my heart. It's very important for reviews. I mean, obviously, I want to know what you guys think. That's like the most key thing. But it's also good because it gives social proof that the book is good or what it's about or what they should be wary of. My cliffhangers. But I've gotten, some very lovely reviews. Also, it's important for stuff like BookBub. So we need like 50 to get a BookBub, 30 to 50. So we're halfway to 30, a little over half. I'm going to be starting. I've sort of half started on the book 2. I know exactly what's going to happen in book 2. Well, most of it. For those of you who haven't read Cinders and Ashes, I hope you get a chance to. We're going in and out here, so I'm just like making sure everything's like working. Do you guys have drinks and snacks? I've got my Diet Coke, and I've got like lemonade ice in the freezer, so hopefully we'll have a slushie because it's a little hot here in Chicago. It's going on 90. How is everybody else doing? And of course, the chat like stop moving. Pam, hello, Ray. Pam says hello, Ray. It's good to see you. Hello, Pam. Hi, Melissa. Hey, Michelle. Hey, Lurleen. Alex says, "Let's fucking do this, Team Jace, Khoth, what the fuck ever." Yes, exactly. Melissa says, "I love Cinders and Ashes, and I'm drinking spearmint tea and root beer. Nice combo, actually." Saya says, "Hello, good evening, morning. I'm having Earl Grey tea, and it's like 4 in the morning for Saya in Japan." Joe says, "Good afternoon. I'm at a friend's wedding. Can't wait to listen later on our trip back home." Oh my gosh, a wedding. And you're just checking in. I love it. I love it. Thank you. I hope it's a fun wedding. I am not a big wedding fan. I know that's probably sacrilege or something, but I don't know. They all just don't seem like personalized to the couple. I mean, there is some personalization, but the ones I've gone to, it's always just felt like the standard ceremony and maybe their touches were colors or something like that. So it was never about them as much, and it was always fun to do something separate from the wedding. Pam says she has iced coffee. I never got into coffee, but I know people, I always thought it smells delicious. Ziggy says, "So excited to be free right now. I finally had the spare cash to resub to your site, getting sucked back into Everdark. Thank you so much." I'm so glad. I'm so glad you're here. I know for everybody, money is really tight. And there are, everybody's sort of looking over their shoulder to see if their job may or may not be there. So I get you. What's been nice though, is I've really had more time to read and some more time to, I don't know, like chill out a little bit. sorta, although I've really filled my days to sort of so I don't have to feel the loss of things. I don't know if you guys are doing that too. My brother said to me, I'm like, because he was like, it's like he billed 52 hours or something ridiculous at his job. And I said, why are you doing that? And he's like, what else am I going to do? And I'm like, Mike, have a life, play more video games, do something. Alex says, seltzer and a chicken lunch. Yum, that's a good snack. Victor says, hi. Hi, Victor. Saya says, we're slowly melting away here in Japan, 35 degrees Celsius. I never know the conversion, but that's like really hot, isn't it? My best friend and his partner went to Japan and they melted too. They loved it there, but they were so hot. Lo says, just finished Cinders and Ashes. We'll leave a review as soon as I can. Super loved it, by the way. Fantastic. I am I am so thrilled. I am so nervous when I start a new series. First, August is a dead month on Amazon, so I really sort of didn't do myself any favors there. But I didn't want to not have another book started and out, and like because the books we did a poll, and we found out there's three places we're getting members from: Facebook, where you guys may have signed up for Everdark or Elven King's Blade or whatever, YouTube, which was awesome, and we're putting more advertising dollars there. But we also have, that the Dragon's Reign podcast, we're putting up this on YouTube, and we're trying to do other things on YouTube. And then the third one was from the books. We had honestly not realized how many people came from the books. And having a consistent release schedule with new books that will refresh Amazon and the hamster wheel of Amazon has really helped. And I really wanted to do this book as well. But vampires, I think, are evergreen. Fairy tale retellings are also that way. But as you guys know, my writing is a little different. I'm not doing just fill in different names here. This is very different. Like Cursed was very different from Beauty and the Beast. This one is very much, high fantasy, high dark fantasy with fae and all this kind of fun stuff in it. So let's see here. Kelly says, hi, started it earlier today. Awesome. I hope you enjoy it. Kelly says, trying something new. Yes. Myra says, I have a Sprite. Unfortunately, I can't stay, so I'll have to listen later. Hope you all have a great time. We'll miss you, Myra. Marina says, good day to everyone. I'm excited for these next few chapters. So am I, man. Kelly says, Marina, are you the one doing the Dark cross stitch? How have I missed this? Are you? Oh, that's so cool. I want to see that. We're also, make sure your fan art goes to Kat, because we put it not only on the site, but we also put it in the newsletter. Marina says, my roommate is dying for Cinders and Ashes book 2. Fantastic. I love to hear that. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. Yeah, Kat and I are going to have a write-in next week where I'm really going to get solidly into book 2. Crystal says, hi, everyone. I made it. Hey, Crystal, we're so glad you're here. Kelly says, also finished Cinders and Ashes in the remainder of the day. I had to learn early last Saturday. Remainder of the day. I'm not quite sure what you mean, but okay. Awesome. I'm so glad that you finished it and enjoyed it. So Joseph says, great googly moogly. I didn't know this was happening today and just walked in the door and plopped down after riding around. So this is my first time. It's so great to have you here, Joseph. We're actually going to be asking you guys regarding whether you want SMS updates. What is SMS? Basically, it's a text message sent to your phone. Not for everything, but for like live readings, free books, that kind of thing. I mean, it would be just too much for us to be bothering you all over the place, because emails, a lot of people, they wait to look at their email, but they glance down at their phone and they say, oh, there's a notification from Facebook letting you know something's happening. So we're going to ask if you want to do that. If you want to do it, it will be a completely voluntary, optional thing. You do not have to do it, and it would be up to you whether you do it or not. But that's something we're going to talk about coming up, because I've gotten, to be honest with you, we've gotten a lot of people, old-time members of over like years, who have told me they've stopped getting the emails. They didn't even know there was free books coming out. And I'm like, well, and they're like, I just look at the calendar, they say, when they want something. So I have to figure out something. Victor says, I listen on YouTube and Facebook. That's awesome. We are considering streaming on YouTube and Facebook through a system that would do both. Kat is trying to figure that out for me. I'm not a technophobe by any means, but um, the one thing about Facebook Live is you press a button, and that's better for me. So Saya says, Hime, my bunny, loves these late nights for me reading since she gets more snuggles. I bet she does. We might have cat butt in my face later. Mew keeps like going back and forth from here. Shaylina says, I'm here. Actually finished listening to the last cast 15 minutes ago. Nice. So you're up to date. Marina says, I am not doing cross stitch, but whoever is, I want to know too. Whoever is, please let us know. I am dying to see this. Kat, did you want the recipe for the blueberry buckle? Yes, she does want that because she's making it for me. So I answered for her. Shaylin says, finished Cinders and Ashes. It was amazing. Thank you so much. Kelly says, Raythe, I meant that you started live earlier today and I read Cinders and Ashes last Saturday after having to leave. Oh, I see. Early due to computer not wanting to recognize my wireless headphones. Oh, no, now I understand. I'm just being an idiot. All right, that makes total sense. I'm so glad that you read it after that. Melissa says, oh, Melissa, you're doing it. It's of Christian and Balthazar. I'm hoping to get the first picture of it sometime next week. First picture of it up. You have to. You have to. You have to send it to Kat. It's got to show everybody. Alex says there was an Everdark ad on adultfanfiction.net, which is surprisingly still limping along after like 15 years. First, I wanted to answer that. We have actually been supporting them with like over a dozen ads since 2010. That was where we got our first members, and I feel so bad for them that, well, it's a volunteer thing and it's a mess over there. And then he says, by the way, about Cinders and Ashes, my ADD often manifests as a reading disability, and it takes forever. I've only finished like 1 or 2 fiction books in my life, but if I ever read and finish Cinders and Ashes, you bet I will review. Thank you. Don't worry, I understand. I totally understand. It's sometimes easier to read like one chapter at a time and follow after that. I think for a lot of people, and not only those who have ADD, but those who just we don't have a lot of time for ourselves, being able to just say, okay, that one chapter's up, I can take that 10 to 15 minutes for myself is really crucial. I think that that's, you can sort of dip your toe in and get back in and enjoy it. And the way the chapters are written, it has that, it goes up on that, like it's crazy, like, adventurous or loving or whatever. And it gives you a satisfying feel because it's a little complete arc in and of itself. Shaylina says, going to leave office to clean, so less likely to miss podcast. Nice. All right. Crystal says, I caught your reading of Cinders and Ashes, chapter 1. It was so good. Are you reading more, or was that just a teaser? By the way, I will be sending that link to everybody, but I didn't want to overwhelm members with everything we're doing. I'm like emailing you like every freaking day. I read the first chapter of Cinders and Ashes as sort of an advertisement to the podcast to say, oh, check this out. I will not be reading it. Although Kat says that was my best reading ever. I found this guy. He's British. He is so fucking spectacular. When he does the stepfather's voice, he sounds like Patrick Stewart. It's like crazy. Rohan is like Aragorn. And Finn is like Legolas. That's what I sort of told him how I was going to do it. And that's what he's done. And he literally has had me listening to his audition about a dozen times. I shared it with my mom and my older brother. They have no interest in gay romance, by the way. My mother was so transfixed. She said, oh, I wish he had done more. I'm like, Mom, he is going to do more. He's going to do the audiobook. You can listen to it and skip the sexy scenes. And my brother, my older brother, now they all are very proud of me and have always supported my writing. But he says, wait, he said, this is your book? And I'm like, yeah, Mike, it's my book. And he was like, but it sounds so, and I'm like, watch your words carefully, older bro. But he was just like, he's always been very proud of me and everything. But he was like, my God, he's like, this sounds like, just something, because he's a big fantasy and science fiction fan. And for, the old school, like, J.R. Tolkien and Wheel of Time and all this other kind of stuff. And he felt it reminded him of that. Now, I am not as good as those authors, but I feel like this guy elevated my prose in a way that I was like, holy shit. So I'm really excited about that. But I know a lot of people have really liked my reading of that. But I think it's because, in all honesty, that it was it took me a month to write the first 4 chapters, which sounds crazy, but trying to get the right tone for every single character, trying to get across the world so you understood it without me doing an exposition dump, and trying to make it really, I don't want to say perfect, but I wanted you guys to get the sense of the world in a natural way, no exposition dump, no prefaces, but we were going into a world that's very different than our own. And that took a long time to do. And I think that really helped me. It also made it like crazy town, like trying to get the rest done, which is why I'm doing 3 months between each one, because it's a very difficult thing. In between 75,000 words I'm writing for the site. So I wanted that for you guys. So AD Logston, hold on, let me take a sip here, and then AD Logston says, I love your stories. I can't wait to see how Everdark and Dragon's Reign ends. I love those two. Yes. Um, I really, I, how can I say this? I love all the stories, and I always know when I'm getting to the last quarter, and both of those stories in the last quarter, Everdark is going to leave into Everdark Academy, so I'm not losing anything. Dragon's Reign, though, is going to be replaced by Hansel and Gretel, so that's going to be different. It's going to be hard to leave this world. It's going to be very hard. Kelly said, sorry, Melissa, I couldn't remember. She just couldn't remember who's doing that Everdark cross stitch, and gosh darn, we all want to see it. Michelle says, I just made a cake. Okay, what kind of cake, and why can't we have some? Melissa says, I'm doing some as we speak, so good. Keep up the good work with the cross stitch. Lo says, I would love text because twice now I have had to tell my email that RR is not spam. I know, it's a big problem. So if we can make this system work, we will, and we'll give that option. The only thing is, I don't want people to feel that we are being intrusive. Texts are things from family and friends, and of course, political campaigns and everything else. But I want you guys to not feel like RR is being intrusive in your life. And I know for some people still RR is something that is private because they're a little like, skittish about people knowing what they're reading. But I think SMS would be a really good option to make sure at the moment. It would just be for, like I said, for certain things. Laura Dieguez says, hi, hi. I'm here with a banana and Nutella pie. Oh my God. I bake specifically to binge on Raythe Rain's stories, playing catch up with the Winter Haven Guide. Yes, you have so much to read. Oh my God, you have no idea. And I want that pie. Kat, take note. I want that pie. All right. Kelly says ADD is not only lack of focus, but uber focus on something. That's true. That's really very true. Crystal says, I agree with Kat. Kelly says, send recipe to Gmail email. Yes, please. Please do that. I want that. Shaylina says, I'm excited for the audio for Cinders and Ashes. Oh, yes. Like I said, as I went through, I'm just excited about those recipes. If you guys wouldn't mind us sharing them with the group, please let myself and Kat know in your email so we can put them in the newsletter. Pam says, I want to write review later. Is it okay to refer to the YouTube video of the first chapter? Of course it is. Absolutely. Send them there. That is totally fine. I'm so glad. The more we get, I have to tell you guys about something that was so frustrating. So Facebook, as you know, it's one of the big three that we get people. We wanted to advertise. We normally do very little advertising of the books, but because August is such a terrible month and we really want people to get into the story, we were going to advertise the book to see if that works. The cover of the book, which you guys know, is a young man. He is shirtless. He's looking down and he's got the title across his chest. You can hardly see his chest. That was bonged for adult content. Guys, they bonged that for adult content. They also have bonged, and this is like, it's done inconsistently, that picture of Kieran and Athénn with their foreheads sort of pressed together. That too was, according to them, adult content. We are fighting this battle again about it's, and it's not just us. It's not just the gay stuff, although remember, gay equals porn in most advertisers' eyes. But Facebook is being ridiculous. I mean, they'll let you put out like dozens of fake COVID cures. But my God, if you have a shirtless man or two men close to each other's faces, that's adult content. It's the most ridiculous thing. And by the way, we do not advertise to anybody, because that it's below 18. That's just, first, they don't have any money, but that's not really why we don't do it. We don't do it because obviously this stuff has sex in it, and we don't do that. So why would an adult be offended by adult content? It's like crazy. Let's see here. Anyway, so what I'm trying to say is any type of reviews are hugely important because we want Amazon to recommend our book. And we just have to have a lot more social proof and a lot more people spreading the word by word of mouth through your blogs, through your vlogs, through your YouTube channels, through your Instagrams, through your Twitter. And I hate to ask this kind of stuff because I think you don't owe me anything. You've paid your money, or you're with us for the free stuff, and that's awesome. You're in reading the content, and that should be enough. But in order to grow, we have to make sure that we can reach our audience. And there's so many crazy things that we're going to talk about another time. But I was just so frustrated when that cover was bonged. I couldn't even. So we're now doing a different cover. Anyway. Okay. Rant off. Shaylina says, because I'm cleaning, I won't be able to comment a lot, but we'll be enjoying podcasts. Well, we will miss your comments, but I understand about the cleaning. Kelly says, I did listen to the rest of last week right before this and want to tell you, Raythe, that your writing process is more interpersonal and collaborative. It is. It hugely is. There are so many times when a reader's pointed something out, good or bad or hopeful or sort of disappointed, and I've realized what's missing. That's why the individual books really make me like mental, because I know, you guys are really, really open to my mistakes, because I'll listen to you and try to fix what I can. With the final book, it's final. Like, your guys are proofreading it. I have no time to change it. I certainly can't rewrite it. So, that's all the thing. So it's really, really collaborative. And I love it because it makes such a better story. Kelly says, everyone's writing process is different and you are using your references wisely. Thank you, madam. Yes. Alex says, I don't take 10, 15 minutes to read chapters. Due to the ADD, I jump from thing to thing and try to have the reading done by the time the next chapter posts 2 days later. I get it. Whatever works for you, I totally get it. And I'm glad you're part of the site, Alec, and you take the time to do what you can. Michelle says, I made a white cake from scratch. Nice. Again, recipes, please send them along. We love cake. Shaylina says, husband just called. Good thing you haven't started reading it. I know I'm so behind you guys, but your comments are so good and I have so much to say. I'll start in a little moment. Okay. I promise. My mother knows about these live streams and you are an author, but not specifically what you write. As many people know, my mother, I was starting to write The Earl King when I was 12, and I read it to her. Yeah. And she accepted that. She's the most awesome person. Bob says, loved Cinders. In my review, I told any potential readers that you always do cliffhangers. That's good. I did put a big warning, and not to get their panties in a wad. I didn't say it quite like that. And that the next book always comes out in a timely fashion. Always. Thank you, Bob. It's really good. I've tried to warn people to avoid the 1 stars where people are like, oh, this is a cliffhanger. You didn't say. I've had people who've wanted 300,000 word books for $2.99. And I'm just like, I'm sorry. That's not going to happen. That's, a year's worth of work. And that's just not, I can't, the story wouldn't even be good because it would be so weird. Marina, a few of us have made new FB friends from these readings. Nice. I'm so glad. Shayla says, yay, recipes. Exactly. Send them all along. It doesn't just have to be cake. Anything you like, because I love food. We all love food here, and I cook for the staff every Friday. Kelly says, though my mother should have no leg to stand on as she has to read the 50 Shades franchise. Exactly. We all have our things. Valerie says, I made it, everyone, and we're so glad you're here, Valerie. Crystal says, I've seen more suggestive pictures than that on Facebook all the time. I know, Crystal. We were doing just a boosted post and they freaking bonged us. And I'm so angry about this because it's bullshit. It's bullshit. And we're having to do it again. And Kat's like, I don't know what to do here. They've accepted this for years. Now they're not. I'm like, we'll just ask Sylvia to give us some more images. Kelly says, you tell them, Raythe. Goddamn right. The problem is there is no one to tell at Facebook. There are no human beings at all. Marina says, we don't owe you anything, Raythe, but it's our joy to give you our love and do little things to spread the love. That's exactly right. So, I mean, just so you all know, I so appreciate anyone who tells a friend or who, passes along or whatever. It's been the way we've grown, to be honest with you, because we are sometimes so limited in what we can advertise and where we can advertise. They just are like, oh, you write gay romance. That means you write porn and we want nothing to do with you, little weirdo. Your money is not as good as everyone else's. So, I mean, word of mouth is really important to us. Lowe says, but that picture of Kieran and Atherton is so chaste. Yes, it is. It is. It is. I can't explain it to you. Alex says, ooh, boy, my not safe for work fan art must really ping pong Google's algorithms. By the way, I'm patiently waiting for space penis so that I can commission some not safe for work Empire of Stars fan art. Well, we're getting them out of the ship right now. We don't want them naked with those bugs. Kelly says, I understand it is between the uber focus and what you were talking about, especially when I'm working. She's talking about ADD. Kat says, love you. Thank you, sweetie. Ziggy says, I made fry bread with honey and cinnamon and a beppy. My comfort food is ready. Kelly said, censorship at its finest. I know. I mean, and Facebook has done a lot of good things, but Facebook is a complete sewer pit in so many ways, and I want to punch Mark Zuckerberg in the face, and that probably will get me bonged now. It's just, I don't understand them, and I've never understood them, and Google is the same way, and I've had arguments with people who are like, but Google's so progressive, and I said, we had an ad where it was 3 men's heads, and one ad had the word gay in it, and the other word did not. Guess which got bonged? It was the word gay that caused us to be. Crystal says, I agree, they're both fully clothed. I know, they're pressing their foreheads together. They are not kissing. It's almost a sad image in a way. But anyway, it was bonged. It was bonged on some ads, and we have no idea why. Other than obviously we're on somebody's naughty list, and there we go. But I've got to stop bitching. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry, but I wanted you to know, because in all honesty, your support is the only reason we can really do all this stuff. Without you, there is no Raythe Rain. Without you spreading the word, there is no Raythe Rain. Without you supporting us, there is no Raythe Rain. There just isn't. I mean, there's just a lot of this stuff could not be ever written. I could never write it. All right, I'm going to answer 2 more comments, and then I swear to God, I am going to start on the live stream with the reading. Saya says, both my mom and my stepfather know about the podcast and the site. It was actually my stepfather who got me the first subscription. Oh, nice. Since I was talking nonstop about it. I'm temporarily out of the subscription, though I'm probably getting a new 3-month from them again since it's soon my birthday. By the way, I think the Cinders and Ashes cover is very beautiful. And FB is cray-cray and bad. Yes. I am so glad. Excellent, Saya. Come back when you can. Kelly says, but I would pay to see you punch him out. I know. He has a very punchable face, doesn't he? Aniko says, hey, glad to make it. So glad for you to make it too. All right. I'm going to the story. I'm sorry, guys. I'm like babbling. Let me just take a sip here of Diet Coke, and then we're going to start with chapter 21. I know in the email I mistakenly said 20 and 21, but it's 21 and 22 for those of you reading along. Okay. Yeah. All right. Talking nonstop here. Chapter 21. Next step. You were very calm when I told you that Khoth was considering killing you, Jace, Gehenna said. You also said that you would paralyze him through the suit's electronics before you could even close his hand on his Rahir, Jace reminded her with a faint smile. And tell me that you aren't sharing this conversation with him. There was a pause. Gehenna? I'm not, Gehenna cried, then added, I was just double checking. People can be wrong, you know, despite the best of intentions. They can make mistakes, even if they're trying very hard. He snorted. Gehenna's mistakes were becoming legendary. But he, excuse me, but he quickly bit his inner cheek to stop any more sounds from emerging from his lips. They were being taken to the hive now. They'd found this hiding place just moments ago with only minutes to spare. The plan is going to work, right? Jace suddenly asked her. Talking about mistakes and best of intentions had him wondering about his own thinking. I don't really want Khoth to go through the head chopping thing. That still felt a little unreal to him. Maybe that was why he hadn't freaked out. Maybe that was why he wasn't as freaked out by it. That Khoth had seriously been considering beheading him. The fact that his suit would have blocked at least the first blow gave him some comfort. Or Khoth could have tried to get him to take the helmet off. Not that this would have happened. He didn't even want to breathe the air in here. It could be infected, unbreathable. I think your plan is sound, Jace, Gehenna said chirpily. With my cloaking you, you'll remain invisible to any scanners. Then I'll get inside of their systems so I'll be able to track cool movement and relay to you the best way to get to the core. Too bad you can't just inject a virus in from here, he said. Yes, that would be very handy, but like the Osiris, in a way, accessing the core of a hive remotely would cause so many alarms that we'd be discovered in moments, and the cool would just take it offline. Jace stopped himself from nodding. So, physically inserting the virus is the only way. It hadn't been a question, but a statement, yet Gehenna stated anyways, yes, it is the only way that could possibly work. How long do we have before the virus affects the hive? He asked. 10 minutes. Damn. Only 10 minutes? Can we... What am I saying? If we could extend the time, you'd say so. He closed his eyes tightly to sort of get his mind around 10 minutes being the difference between life and death. But I've estimated the time to get back to the ship. Even assuming multiple battles along the way, you'll be back in 8.5 minutes, she informed him helpfully. 8.5 minutes. Plenty of time, he replied dryly with a soft laugh. Indeed. There was a pause. Running. You'll have to be running full out to get back. Yeah, Gehenna, I assumed that, he told her. The ship shuddered as it came to a stop inside of the hive. On his helmet screen, it showed him the seed-shaped hangar bay. As soon as the outer doors shut again, 2 Omul scuttled into the hangar bay. Their 7-foot-tall bodies, sheathed in that shiny black carapace, had Jace's stomach churning more than it had so when he'd seen them in Sunrise. The larva, wriggling under the young woman's skin, had him seeing the cool totally differently now. He'd been scared of them before, but now he was scared but also angry on a deep level. What they did was obscene. It wasn't just killing people. It was how they did it, and it was the pain their victims went through. To keep their victims conscious throughout this process was malevolent in Jace's mind. They need to be stopped, Jace thought. No quarter. As the 2 Omul came towards the ship on their clawed feet, tentacles extended from the back of their heads, waving about. Jace thought of cutting off those heads and tentacles with his rapier. Even if they were in range, though, he and Khoth were not to attack the Omul. They were to stay hidden. His eyes slid towards Khoth then, and he wondered if the commander was thinking the same thing. He couldn't ask Khoth because that would create sound, and using the suit's texting capability, even the aspect allowed them to use their eyes, might cause them to move and again cause noise. So they'd agreed to be silent. He frowned. Gehenna, how did you know Khoth was thinking of cutting off my head? Oh, I track where he's looking, and obviously all of his vital functions. Obviously, Jace laughed internally. And there are certain micro-expressions that are very telling that he makes before he fights, she rattled off, but really it was obvious. Obvious? He cares for you, Jace, her voice softened. He would never let the cool harm you. Jace blinked. Yeah, but he would be cutting off my head. With love! Cutting off your head with love, she enthused. So why weren't you freaked out when I told you? I was. I mean, at first. But then I thought of that girl's face, Jace said and swallowed, nausea bubbling up again. He fought off the urge to squirm as he felt imaginary bugs tickling his skin. The thing was that he had to remind himself that his suit kept them imaginary, as there were tubes with larvae not 2 feet from him. The thing is, he continued, I was going to ask him to do it, you know? Kill me if... Yes. But you're nowhere near that yet. Things are not that dire, Gehenna cried, which was why I intended to paralyze him if he even went so far as to touch that hilt. He cracked a grin. I'm glad you got my back, Gehenna. Of course. His grin, though, faded as the ship opened and the gangway started to lower. The two Omul were joined by half a dozen sea tixes. These caterpillar-like creatures, if a caterpillar were hundreds of times larger than they were on Earth, wore what looked like harnesses on their backs with hoses attached that led into the walls of the ship. Hoses large enough to... I think that's how they'll move the people, Gehenna whispered. They'll suck them up. Don't tell me, Jace said as bile was already rising up in his throat. All he would need would be to throw up in his spacesuit. He heard the tick, tick, tick of the Omul's claws as they were the first to come inside the ship. He and Khoth were on that main floor where the gangway entrance was. But, beyond being shielded from discovery by Gehenna's electronic sorcery, there were only a few inches of the chitin between them and the Omul, even without the ship's camera's equivalent of a microphone. Tell me again that you're safe, Gehenna, Jace demanded, as his breathing rose, frosting the glass of his helmet before the internal cool air supply wiped it away. She hadn't been able to fit in with them here, so she was hanging from the ceiling in the engine room. Just more coils in a room full of coils, with the lights in her squid head dome shut off. I'm safe. I'm more worried about you, she said. Those two Omul are suspicious, even though my hack is perfect. He saw what she meant. The two Omul had split off at the top of the gangway, one heading to the left and the other to the right, going around the external circle of the walkway near the pods. They would pass right by him and Khoth. The urge to grab his rapier or his pistol or Khoth's nearest hand was so strong that sweat broke out across Jace's brow as he fought the instinct. We don't know what caused the ship to return to the hive, Jace pointed out, focusing on that instead of the steadily approaching cool. Maybe we tripped something and they're looking for the cause of that. I see no evidence of that, but I suppose it's possible, Gehenna mused. The Omul to his right, he called this one Jerry, was not only a few pod lengths away from him and Khoth. Was only a few pod lengths away from him and Khoth. The Omul to his right, the Omul to his left, this one he called Raoul, was further away but was intently scanning each pod, looking to the faceplates, peering around as if looking for injuries to them, or perhaps if someone uninfected was hiding inside and being more pokey. Desperate to think of something, anything, Jace continued, maybe they were scanning us a lot earlier than I realized. I would have known, Gehenna sounded affronted. He'd supposed for an AI missing something like this would be like failing at a 101 course or something. Or hell, even if they didn't have anything to do with us coming back and it was the Osiris. You know what I think. The Osiris did this on purpose for its stupid mission. Gehenna's voice was full of angry suspicion, but she didn't like the Osiris very much. Yeah, I know, Jace said, wondering how he felt about that. On the one hand, if it was the Osiris, then hopefully the ship was keeping his parents from losing it, except nothing the Osiris said would likely comfort anyone. Let's say it was the Osiris, the Cynosure. That would make the cool way more suspicious, too. Like the ship is a Trojan horse, which, well, it is. But that's a human story. They might not have an analogous story to look upon for inspiration, Gehenna pointed out. Oh, I have a feeling in a war that's pretty common, he said, then found that he couldn't even speak mentally then. Both Omul were right in front of them. His heart rate rose even higher. His breathing hissed through his Could they hear that? They were only guessing that over the hum of the ship's machinery and all the life signs of the human cargo that 2 more heartbeats and respiration wouldn't give them away. Not to mention the wall. It was only a few inches thick, but still, what if we are wrong? Gehenna was piping in the video from the ship's own cameras, and one of them was almost directly facing out at the Omul, so it appeared on a screen that the 2 Khool were leaning right towards his face. Jace held his breath. There were long, long moments when Jace's heartbeat thundered in his ears, and his lungs started to ache from not breathing. But he held himself completely still. Finally, the 2 Omul pulled back and started off into the other parts of the ship. As soon as they left, Jace gulped the air. Cold, clean, glorious air. Now they would just have to wait until the Sea-Tixes offloaded the humans, and his heart ached that these people would have to go through whatever came next, and the hangar was empty again before they made their move to go to the... There was a hissing sound from behind them. Jace froze. Even though he really wasn't moving before, as light suddenly appeared by his and Khoth's feet. A section of the outer hull was opening. Jace immediately thought of the Sea-Tixes with the hoses on their backs. They didn't suck out the humans from the front of the pods, but from the backs. Khoth and his asses were literally going to be hanging out in front of the Sea-Tixes in moments. Gehenna, Jace shouted. I know. She sounded strangled. I wondered what those Gehenna. The Omul are up above you. Get into the ship. Then you can head out the gangway, she rattled. I'll tell you when it's safe. Jace grabbed Khoth's hand and sent 2 words. Follow me. Khoth gave a nod. He too had seen the growing light. The 2 of them slid along the inner and outer sections of wall until they came to one of the openings between 2 of the pods. Jace popped through, followed by Khoth. The commander moved as silently as a cat. Jace was pretty quiet too. Hide? Khoth sent. No, wait, Jace answered as he crouch-walked towards the gangway, then pressed his back to the wall. Khoth followed after him and copied his stance on the other side of the gangway. Gehenna, I can see... Jace's visor suddenly shifted to heat vision. Oh man, I can see them. It shocked him, but it was exactly what he needed to see. He could see the heat signatures of a Sea-Tix scuttling outside on the hangar bay's floor. He could see the other 5, the caterpillar-like creatures, crawled up the openings into the ship and were attaching the hoses. He made the mistake of looking at the nearest pod, where a Sea-Tix attached a hose to the top back of the pod. His eyes naturally went to the faceplate. He recognized the person inside. It was Mrs. Lowe, the sweet, elderly lady who had run the laundry. Her dumpling face was scrunched in pain. Her eyes, though, sought his. He remembered her shop. There had been a long smear of blood. He had wondered if he would ever see her again. Now he wished he hadn't. The larva streaked her face like black lines painted on. Her lips parted in agony just before she was sucked out of the pod like a tapioca ball. As her feet disappeared out of view, Jace just stared. Jace. Something hit his arm and he whirled around, ready to strike, but it was Khoth. The commander's face showed concern, alarm, and more concern. Jace was breathing hard. He realized he's drawn his Rahir and yet didn't recall doing so. He blinked. Jace. Khoth's voice was low, but hearing his name said in that now familiar accent calmed him. His shoulders lowered. He had been so tense that they had been drawn up to his ears. He drew in a breath and resheathed the Rahir. I almost cut off your head, Jace whispered. A quirk smile appeared on Khoth's beautiful face. Then we are even. Another pause. Then he said more than asked. You knew her. Mrs. Lowe. She's a grandmother to 3 kids. She used to bring me dumplings, homemade. She knew how much I loved them. Jace's throat became so tight that he couldn't speak. How do I tell her family? Her family, what happened to her? But the moment he said this, he realized he likely wouldn't be the one telling them. Maybe no one would be telling them the truth. Not the truth, not yet. His mother was going to start the process of revealing the existence of aliens, but who knew how long that would take or what form? But it was highly unlikely Mrs. Lowe's family would would know that their beloved grandmother had been infected and turned into food for aliens. But Jace knew, and he would avenge her. Okay, let's take a little break there. I need Diet Coke so bad. And I'm going to check in for okay, here we go. Hold on. Diet Coke, Diet Coke. Okay. What do we got going on here? Let's see. Whoa, I gotta go up. So Kelly says ranting is a good wheel to is a good way to deal with frustration. She's talking about my rant about Facebook and censorship and all that kind of fun stuff. Yeah, no, I mean it's good to talk to people who know and understand. Alex says, have you ever noticed that FB has tons of problems with gay and male images, but zero issues with downright exploitation of females? Yeah, I have noticed that. I sincerely have noticed that. I agree, Raythe. Every time I just see a picture of Mark Zuckerberg, I have a pathological need to punch him. Yeah, he is, I feel like he is like Dr. Frankenstein in a way, not understanding what he created. And even now, I just don't know. Marina says, these next two Empire of Stars chapters are so stressful, my poor heart. They were hard to write. For sure. And yet they've been something I've been thinking about for a long time. Laura says, I want to see Khoth taking the first step to start wooing Jace. I want it to be Khoth. Ha ha ha. Yes, we will. We're actually going to see next month more of the relationship building with them because they're going to be away from everybody for a little while. We're going to slow down some of the action and give them some of the fun time. Kelly says, my birthday is in January. Well, that's a fun thing because January doesn't have a lot of fun things that happens in it. Marina says, killing with love. Everyone is totally bonkers. Khoth for thinking it in the first place, Gehenna for phrasing it that way, and Jace for being totally cool with it. It's a little bit like, yeah, it's a little crazy. Hannah says, I'm here, Ray. Sorry I'm late. I took my dad to the doctor this morning, and there was a freeway shutdown. Oh my gosh, on the way back. Oh, wow. Well, you were an awesome daughter for taking your dad to the doctor. Alex says, geez, I think I may have gone to high school with Gehenna. I can only imagine that. Having a friend like that. I had some crazy friends though in my day. Aniko says, yuck, eek, bugs tickling skin. I know. I have felt like there are bugs on my skin all the time when I'm writing this. Like I will continue. Even right now, I'm like scratching. I am scratching. Crystal says, that is probably the first time the sentence cutting off your head with love has ever been written. Laugh out loud. Yes, exactly. Do you guys know The Evil Dead and the Evil Dead series? I really love that kind of humor, and I think that that's what's coming in here. Kelly says, do you know the song Here Comes the Rain Again by Eurythmics? Oh, absolutely. Well, Khoth and Jace slow dancing the song. I love it. I love that. Talk to me like lovers do, Khoth and Jace. Very nice. And the thing is that that people are very romantic. I mean, they put poets on pedestals and stuff like that, and then their very private time with their partner, they are allowed to show their full range of emotions. So that partner they're very exposed to, very open to. Laura says, Gehenna cracks me up. We need some kind of like comedic relief. Marina says, I literally couldn't sleep after this chapter. This is so stressful. Sorry, my allergies are just ugh. Yes, it was very, I was squirming all over the place. Oniko replying to Laura says, it's like we know she knows what she's doing, but she's freaking out and complaining anyways. Yeah, a little bit. Alex says, tapioca balls, bubble tea, anyone? Yeah, I know. That was my image of one of those going up in the straw. I was like, oh, God. I don't even drink these anymore, but I don't think I'll try anymore. It's so funny. Aniko is replying to Alec about the bubble tea. I know I haven't had bubble tea in ages. God, they're good. Um, but yeah, now I'll be thinking Mrs. Lowe. That's not good. Shaylina says, having a hard time loading podcast. It stops playing, trying to get it back. I'm sorry. Alex says, by the way, Jace's spacesuit resembles the SpaceX suits. Great minds think alike. I know. Elon Musk is like a mixture of like awesomeness and craziness and, even, space villain. Victor says, my birthday's in December. Well, happy birthday coming up. Ziggy says, gay Evil Dead may just be my favorite thing in the world. I know, seriously. I love that show. I love Bruce Campbell. And everybody in that show is just so funny and the connections they have together. So another December birthday. All right, so let me just take another sip here of Diet Coke. Um, I love doing this with you guys. It just makes it so much fun. And I mean, it's such an honor to be able to read out loud and perform the story for people, and they love it. It's just so great. You're my people. I found my tribe, man. I found my tribe. Okay, let me take another sip of Diet Coke, and then we will get to the second half of Sinners National Empire of Stars. I've got that on the head, obviously. Okay. Here we go. His gaze, his gaze, his gaze swept around the hangar bay. The heat signatures for the Cetixes were as bright as stars. He knew where they all were. A line map of the hive appeared before him, showing him where they must go to get to the core. He sent what he was seeing to Khoth. Based upon the Cetix's movements. This is Gehenna. Based upon the Cetix's movements, I believe there is a chance for you to escape the ship unseen in a minute, Gehenna stated with some urgency in her voice. He knew that she wasn't just anxious about them. The two Omul and the ship were moving towards her location. Understood. He had recovered from seeing Mrs. Lowe. Actually, seeing her had made him more intent on destroying this place. Keep safe, Gehenna. You too, Jace. It's time. Go! We should go, Khoth, now, Jace said, and he was moving, knowing that Khoth would follow. He didn't have to see everything surrounding him. When a Cetix looked right or left, or would hear his boots or not, he knew it on a subconscious level. There were warnings like the hair in the back of his neck rising when he took a wrong step, and he would dodge or duck or run faster. The Cetixes were mostly concentrating on their tasks, eager to bring the humans inside of the hive. The hoses jerked as human after human was passed along inside of them. He thought of every life in those tubes, still alive but dead. Dead because there was no chance for them to be saved, yet continuing to suffer and be afraid and maybe even hope to think that somehow this could be stopped and that they could be saved. We have to end their suffering, Jace thought. It's all I can offer them. They made it across the hangar towards a door that would lead them deeper into the hive. Khoth had followed his footsteps perfectly, trusting him utterly to lead them safely here. He felt a connection to the commander, even though they were not speaking out loud. He met Khoth's gaze through their helmets. The commander gave him a short nod. It was the equivalent of a thumbs up. He is impressed with you, Gehenna chuckled. Let's not celebrate prematurely, Jace told her, and yet his cheeks flared with color. Khoth tilted his head to the side, and Jace just shook his head. He could not explain any of this, even if it wouldn't embarrass him terribly, about Gehenna singing the equivalent of Jace and Khoth sitting in a tree, Kising. You'll need to go through this door. You'll need to go up. I keep getting Gehenna wrong. You'll need to go up through this door, up the hallway about 100 meters, and then I'll show you where to go next, Gehenna assured him. Right, let's do this. With a tilt of his head, Jace indicated to Khoth where they were going. The door was made out of 3 ribbed sections of chitin that twisted together to close and disappeared into the wall when open. It appeared to be operated simply by proximity because it opened for them. You've got a clear shot down the hallway, Jace, Gehenna told him, even as he and Khoth crouched by the open doorway. Jace made a movement with his hand to indicate that they should move. Khoth nodded. They kept low and glided down the hallway. The chitin was ridged so that wasn't slick under their boots, but as careful as they both were, their boots squeaked against the material every once in a while, and when that happened, Jace's heart was in his throat. But while he saw heat signatures in other parts of the ship, no one seemed to hear them, or if they did, come to check out what had made that noise. The core was, unsurprisingly, at the very heart of the hive, and the hive was huge. When they were near the hangar bay, there had been a few cool, but as they moved deeper within the ship, more and more heat signatures were appearing. More than once, Jace had held up a hand to stop them from receding in front of another hallway that emptied into the one they were currently in, because an Omul or Cetex was clacking its way nearby. Gehenna, we can't stay out in the open in this hallway, Jace told her. We've lucked out so far that none of them are seeing this hallway, but that's going to change. It isn't luck, it's me, she told him with a touch of smugness. But, yes, I see your point. There is a duct system that you could likely use. It will slow you down, though. A legion of cool will slow us down, too, he reminded her. Fair point, she agreed. Here's a new route. On his HUD, there was a glowing dot that showed him where they should go forward, then turn right, then enter a room to their left. There would be an entrance in the floor into the duct system, which was far roomier than he'd hoped. Again, he'd indicated to Khoth they should go, and the commander gave him a brief nod. Warmth filled Jace. I can't let him down. Got to keep us safe and on target, Jace thought. The light in the hive was amber. It reminded Jace of being in a piece of hardened sap. It shouldn't have been a calming light, but it just seemed to make things murky and undefined. Luckily, his helmet and his own super-attuned senses stopped him from blundering into the walls or down the wrong hallway. Soon they were outside of the door that would lead them to a room that would get them into the ducts. But there was a problem. His heat vision showed him that there were 2 Cetexes inside the space, and there were 2 other, fainter signatures that looked to be human. They could withdraw down the hallway and hope the Cetexes would leave, but they had no idea how long that would take, and the 2 human signatures. What were they doing to them? What do you wish to do, Jace? Khoth asked. Jace looked again with his heat vision. The Cetexes were bustling around the human heat signatures. He thought of Mrs. Lowe. He thought of that young nameless woman. They were still alive. They were in agony. He had to stop this. Jace met Khoth's eyes. We need to kill them. And that is the end of chapter 21. Yay! They're going to kill things. It's going to be awesome. Let's go back to the chat. Let's go have some Diet Coke. Victor says, Alanis are a pan? I don't know what that means, Victor. I think the autocorrect has done something very strange. Michelle says, my birthday is in November. Happy birthday. Aniko says, laugh out loud. His gay CJC will never forget so perfectly. All right. Aniko says, Gehenna is a total matchmaker. She totally knew they'd like each other as Khoth entered Earth space. Yes, she totally did. She totally did. I'm just like, I love her. I totally envisioned her one way, and then I realized that she was something else. And I think that she was portraying herself almost like a Cortana, and then she really wasn't that at all. Okay. Drinks. Hold on 1 second here. We're going to get ready for... Okay, Hannah, is it over already so fast? Don't worry, there's another chapter to go. Oh, meant to say gays. Oh, I'm messing up this chapter a little bit. I think it's just because I'm excited. It's probably the problem. Lurleen's birthday is Labor Day this year. Nice. Guys, I'm going to go and I'm just going to get another drink. I'll be right back. Talk amongst yourselves. List your birthdays. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. Uh, okay, so Marina says must provide Diet Cokes for Raythe. Yes, I'm actually drinking those sparkling ice that I put in the classic lemonade that I put in the freezer, and of course it all went frozen, which is just awesome. I love slushies. I wish they would make Diet Coke slushies at 7-Eleven. They do not, however. Marina says same. Oh, Victor says, I mean allergies are a pain. Yes, 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 they are. They really are. They yeah. Melissa says my birthday is in September. Happy early birthday. Victor's like my birthday is December 5th. Nice. Um they are. We all agree that allergies suck. And of course I'm always thinking, is it allergies or is it COVID? But it's definitely allergies. Um all hail December BDs. Birthdays, says Hannah. Excellent. Any March birthdays out there? That's what I meant. Marina says, oh God, every morning before work, I stand there and answer, are you experiencing any symptoms today? And I've got to make a call on, do I have allergies or COVID? Exactly. That's exactly right. My mom moved into my condo building this year. And so I'm like, she's awesome, as you guys know, but I'm taking care of her and I have to just be really careful. So I get really paranoid, as we all do. Pam says yes to Victor's all December birthdays. Kelly says, recipe sent. Let me know how you like it. Excellent. Kat is the baker, so I will force her. Oh, this looks great. The blueberry buckle. Oh, God, I'm so excited. All right. Kelly, can we put it in the newsletter for other people who want it? Laura says, my birthday was the 20th of this month. Well, happy birthday. My best friend's birthday was August 17th. I am meeting him after this to have some wine and to celebrate his birthday. So awesome. All right, we are doing chapter 22 now. I just need another drink, and then we will do this chapter that honestly just had me. Wow, these next two honestly are just crazy. They're just crazy, action filled, and creepy. And I'm scratching again, which is just not good. So hold on one second. Let me just take a drink, and we will do the next part. Oh, that's so tart. Yummy, yummy. All right. Chapter 22. Ductwork. Khoth's HUD showed him the heat signatures of the two cedixes within the room that would give Jace and him access to the ducts. He watched them bustle around the much cooler human forms. His suit told him these humans were still alive despite their cool temperatures. In fact, they squirmed with life. The urge to flee was strong, to get away from this uncleanness, but there was only one way to get out, and that was through. They were waiting for the optimum moment to burst into the room. These had to be quick, efficient kills, no sound preferably. Both of them had unsheathed their rapiers, but his gaze kept sliding to Jace. Jace had surprised him. It was clear that the young human was horrified and shocked to the core by what he had seen. Jace had kept his head. The horrors in the hive had shaken even Khoth's. It had hardened his resolve as well to defeat the cool, but it had done something he hadn't expected. It had made Khoth not want to abandon the humans to this fate, for he had no doubt that the cool would be back to harvest Earth, especially if they destroyed this hive. The people's faces in the tanks, from the young woman to the plump elderly lady who Jace had clearly known, still flashed before Khoth's eyes. And now, when they entered this room, they would see more horrors. I have to be ready if these people know Jace. If these are people Jace knows well, Khoth thought. Killing those one... Oh my goodness. Killing those one knows that would cause anyone to balk. I shouldn't have laughed. Oh, I have to rephrase that. Another thing that had struck him about Jace was that he was willing to follow the young man's lead. At first, as they had strafed low over the hangar bay's floor to the door that would lead them further into the ship, he had told himself it was an evaluation of Jace's skills. But in a hive, there was really no room for error. The truth was that he had deferred to Jace, and he hadn't been wrong to do so. With an almost preternatural ability, Jace had kept them just out of the Sea-Tix's vision. When he had been inclined to dash forward, Jace would stop, and the Sea-Tix would just turn then. So if they had dashed forward, they would have been seen. But stopping in what was the middle of the floor with no obstacles to the Sea-Tix's lines of sight would have seemed mad. But it was always the right move, and they had avoided the growing number of cool that infested the hive's hallways. So now he would trust Jace's instincts, or whatever it was that was guiding him, and attack at the moment that Jace chose. He sensed as much as saw Jace tensing. His hands tightened on his rapier, and then they were moving inside. The door whispered opened. Khoth took in the room in an instant. It was circular, with two individual pods into which there were two humans up to their necks in fluid. The Sea-Tixes were adjusting lines that led into the two pools. It took Khoth a moment to realize that they were dumping larger larvae, likely ones that had burst out of other beings, into the pools so that they could feast on the humans. Khoth couldn't even tell the humans' sex in that moment. Their faces were twin masks of agony. But Jace, if he registered these things at all, did not react to them. Like a ribbon of silk in the wind, Jace was across the floor to the largest Sea-Tix. His rapier slicing through the Sea-Tix's head so swiftly and silently that the creature was still moving, its hundreds of legs clattering as if doing a dance against the floor. Khoth did the same. Sea-Tix blood, acidic and dangerous in its own right, poured from their bodies. Jace neatly sidestepped the pools. Now Jace was looking at the two humans. His back was to Khoth, so he could not see Jace's expression. He was staring directly into one of the suffering humans' faces. It was a woman, Khoth realized when she spoke. Her face was stripped of color as she gasped out, "Kill me." Khoth shut his eyes for a moment, for Jace's face was now overlaying hers, with his sister's voice saying the same thing. Khoth forced his eyes to open. He would end these poor beings' lives so that Jace didn't have to. But it was already over. Both humans were dead, their throats neatly slit. "Find peace," Jace whispered. It was so low that Khoth wasn't even sure he had heard it. "I would have done that," Khoth said. Jace turned to look at him then. His expression was so bleak that, for a moment, Khoth almost took another step back. But then he surged forward and grasped the arms of Jace's suit. "You do not have to kill your people, Jace. I will end their suffering," Khoth found himself saying. Jace gave him the saddest smile. "You want everyone to think that you feel nothing, when you feel the most of all." Khoth's lips opened to dispute that, but he didn't. It was something that Dasa would have said, had said. "Thank you, Khoth," Jace told him. "You've no idea how much that means." Jace surprised him again when, instead of breaking down and falling forward into his arms, Jace gently disengaged Khoth's hands and was turning towards the far right corner of the room, where the trap door to the ducts was located. He started to pry it up with the tip of his rapier. "Gehenna," Jace said, "how are you doing?" "Fine, Jace. I'm playing hide-and-seek with the Omul." Despite there being no sound, Jace could almost hear her delight in this dangerous game over her text on his HUD. "Don't have too much fun," Jace told her. His voice was still leaden from what he had done and seen, but he was trying to act normally for the AI. He is concerned about her feelings. So many would not even think an AI could feel, or even if they did, that their feelings were important, Khoth realized. "What do you need?" she asked, and Khoth sensed an awareness in her of Jace's true mood. "We need to make sure that the cool don't come looking in this room to find out where their buddies are and raise the alarm on us prematurely," Jace explained as he pried up a square section of floor, which Khoth grasped and moved to the side. "So can you lock the door or something?" "Yes, I can do that. The cool language is still a little hazy for me, but I can also monitor their comms," she said. "They have comms?" Jace sounded genuinely surprised by this. Khoth found himself looking back at the long, segmented bodies, as thick as he was around. He saw no signs of technology on them, at least nothing recognizable. They communicate in many ways, she explained, through body language and also through pheromones, but there is some kind of organ inside them that, well, that vibrates. It's like an internal organic calm. Ugh, well, I see, Jay said. No wonder it's hard to understand them. Well, yes, because it's really monitoring each and every cool to see if there are vibrations that. Not now, Gehenna. Another time. We've got to concentrate here, and you've got to get that door locked. Not to mention keep out of the Omul's sight. Jace interrupted her as he ducked his head down into the opening in the floor and looked right then left. Oh, I could do all of this in my sleep, she protested. With genuine amusement in his voice, Jace growled, Don't get cocky, kid. Ah, am I Luke Skywalker to your Han Solo? Gehenna asked, which sounded completely inexplicable to Koth. I am always Luke Skywalker, Jace informed her archly. But, oh, well, never mind. I'd like to be Vader. Do you think I could play Vader? She asked, his conversation veering into the even more obscure. Jace chuckled as he lowered himself into the ducts with Koth's help. You've got the helmet for it, Gehenna. I believe we should focus on the mission, Koth said. You two should have your conversation later. I think we've just been scolded, Jay said to Gehenna. He's just upset that he can't be Vader, Gehenna said, and put plenty of smiley faces after that statement. Koth shook his head. He would never understand the secret language of theirs, or the joy they took in it. He jumped into the ducts and landed lightly on his feet. I thought these would be smaller and we'd have to squirm on our bellies, but it's not too bad. Just gotta hunch over a bit, Jay said as he surveyed the passage ahead of them. While Jace just had to lean forward a bit, Koth was practically bent almost in half. His head would bump the ceiling of the curved duct if he was not careful. Unlike the corridors that had been flooded with amber light, these were dark, except for light that seeped through slit-like openings on the walls, ceiling, and occasionally the floor. His HUD adjusted so that the night vision was enabled. Also on the HUD, the route to the core of the ship was illuminated. A dot streaked forward to show them the twists and turns ahead. This way, Jace whispered. They were both careful as they walked on the thinner metallic-like duct material. It gave slightly under Koth's weight, and if he released his weight from a panel too quickly, the material sprang up, making a metallic thunk-thunk sound. Koth hoped it was his nerves making the sound louder than it actually was. This slowed their progress down. He found himself looking out the slits to see where they were. Amber light played over Jace's helmet as he too turned his head to look out of the duct. There were more pools, more Cetixes, and more humans. Hold on a moment, another drink. The first time they saw another set of pools, Jace's hand went to the hilt of his rapier. Koth had gripped his shoulder. Remember, when we destroy the core, we destroy the hive. We should destroy all of this, he whispered. Only then did Jace release his hold on the hilt, and they crept on in this interminable darkness until the next flash of light and next horror of more pools. Though they should have kept silent, Jace whispered, Do the Thafel believe in an afterlife? Koth frowned. Afterlife? Life after death. Like, do you think we go on, our consciousness, even after our body dies? Jace asked. The Thafel believe that all return to oneness after death. We are made of stars, and to the stars we return, Koth answered when he realized what Jace was asking. But do individuals go on? I mean, not just turn into compost and feed the soil, which feeds the flowers, which feeds the animals. Like we, us, ourselves, Jace pressed. They were passing by another set of pools. For a moment, Koth caught sight of one of the humans silently screaming as larvae flowed into and out of his open mouth. Bright, cherry-red blood poured out as well as his tongue was stripped off by the hungry larva. In the past, we believed our ancestors remained near to watch over us, Koth said after dragging his gaze away. So long as we revered them, went to their graves and made offerings, that they would remain with us. If they were forgotten, then they would move on and leave to join the great consciousness. His HUD showed his HUD showed them that they were nearing the core. The duct was starting to narrow, or at least it seemed so to Koth's aching back. He noticed that the floor was now more stable, but also dusty, or bits of a powdery substance rose up with every movement of his boots. And there were also times when he encountered a sticky substance that caught the sole of his foot and forced him to pull at his boot. Perhaps whatever kept the rest of the ducts clean does not reach this far, Khoth thought. But another part of his brain thought he was seeing patterns in the sticky stuff, like trails, like something slithering along and leaving that gluey residue that when it dried became the powdery dust. What do you believe? Jace asked. What do I? Ah, you mean, do I believe in an afterlife? Khoth confirmed. Yeah, Jace said. I believe when our bodies die, that our consciousnesses cease to exist, Khoth answered. Jace was quiet for far too long for his liking after this answer. Finally, the young man said, You're probably right, but I want to believe there's something more. There has to be. All the people who died for no good reason before they could fully experience life or make a difference. Jace stopped, and Khoth could tell from the emotion in his voice that this was difficult for him to say. I want to believe. I do not think there is any harm in such a desire, so long as it does not cause you to ignore this life, Khoth answered. Some would say that there is no proof either way, so either of us could be right or wrong. Others say that we have no proof of anything beyond us, no scientific proof, therefore the Nades would have it. But again, until this morning, I thought that aliens weren't real either, Jace interrupted him with what sounded like laughter. But that is not logical, considering the size of the universe, and it was because I hadn't seen or heard of you. Most people would be able to say of aliens what you're saying about the existence of an afterlife, Jace pointed out. Simply because one hasn't seen any evidence doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Khoth frowned, his brow furrowed. Jace might have a point there, but... Whoa! What is that? Ganna, what am I seeing here? Jace asked the AI. And we're going to take a little bit of a break here because we're halfway through this. And I'm going to check out your questions. I'm going to take some more drinks. It's all going to be good. Oh my god, I'm excited about what you guys are saying here. Okay. Okay, hold on. Scrolling all up. I'm scrolling up. All right, let me take a drink and then I'm going to read out these questions. Okay. So, Saya says, my birthday is in 2 days, Japan time. My husband, little brother, and Bunny are in March. Nice. Well, happy birthday to you. Kelly says, yes, you can. Great. So we can put the dessert recipe cat in the newsletter. The best thing about it is you can have dessert with ice cream or breakfast. I like it. I think that's wonderful. I mean, let's be honest here. Muffins are cake, and we love those for breakfast. Aniko says, ooh, so many wonderful birthdays. I know, this is awesome. Shaylina says, I saw from that last podcast, happy birthday with Laura and Saya. Yes, excellent. Marina says, another chapter that gave me temporary heart problems. Yeah, it's really making me unnerved too as I'm reading it and like re-experiencing what's done. Hannah says, flu shots, $20 with no insurance at Costco. You don't need to be a member to go to the pharmacy and get the shot. Yeah, I'm going to get mine actually at CVS in a couple days. They're doing free ones, actually. Although they probably do go for your insurance. Hannah says, out of curiosity, Raythe, are you correcting the story on the website as you read it out loud? It sometimes seems like you are from your comments. Yes, Hannah. And I shouldn't do that because I should just go back after the live reading, but I can't help myself. So yes, sometimes I'm editing. I'm like, woo, I gotta fix that. Laura says, my heart breaks. Oh. Kelly replies, she is proofreading. Yes, I am. I know I am a little bit. What really frustrates me is, of course, I go through it and I don't see these things when I go through it. I just don't understand it. I mean, I do understand it. You read what you think is there, not what is there. That's why when you see those stupid things on FB where, somebody has like all these misspelled words and yet you're still able to read it, that's why, because your brain fills in what needs to be filled in. We see really only see, honestly, they say the first and last letter. It's really wild. It's cool. Alex says Jace is so much more powerful, so much smarter. Koth should be in awe. I think he will be. Remember, Koth thinks he's pretty much like superior. Like he does still think that. But Jace is the pilot for a reason, and he has been trained for a reason, and he was chosen for a reason. Marina says, I love this deference to Jace, but I keep having the same question. How loud are Koth's beads? Oh God. Um, that's a fucking good question. I assume that they were sort of like sucked against his head, so they weren't moving. I know he's wearing a helmet, but if there were any space at all, if those beads clack easily, how successful would a fell be at sneaking with a high social status? Oh yeah, that is like, oh yeah. But no, I saw it as basically like there's no movement of the hair. It's like plastered against the head. Alex says hide and seek with the O'Moole cue Benny Hill theme. Yes, that's so perfect. Joseph says I'm getting tingles at that heartache. Yeah, I know. Um, I feel like these people are real. I think to myself, like, because I always think that if there would be like, an invasion or something like that, because I'm not a very physical person, I would be surely the first to be, taken into the hive and turned into a bug feast. So I put myself more in the position of Mrs. Lowe or someone like that, and not actually in the position of Jace or Koth, even though I would love to be Jace or Koth. Maria says, "Oh God, the ducks, blurg." Yes. Um, Aniko replied to Alex, I think Koth is, though he's not expressing himself in a manner we would commonly recognize, but I think the fact that he's trusting Jace's instincts and lead and Jace's ability to separate his emotions from what they need to do, as evidenced by his quick reactions to killing the Cool and humans in that small room and still moving on to the ducks, all leads to Koth being in awe of Jace. I think he will, because this is the one thing, as he sees Jace do these things later when he goes up against the council, he will have Jace's back. He will say he has proven himself to be a leader. He should be allowed to do this. Joseph says Gehenna Vader. If anything, she'd be Dark Helmet from Spaceballs. Oh yes, that is so true. Oh my God, I love that. Yes, she is Darth Helmet. Dark Helmet, rather. Alex says, yes, and here we see Jace displaying his natural aptitude for exploring tight, wet holes. Oh my God, Alec, you were so bad. Marina says, not this hole. Oh, Jesus. Joseph's like, lordy, lordy. And Marina says, bad hole, bad hole. Oh, God, you guys. Oh, I could do all of this in my sleep, she protested. Not according to your past record, Kenna. I know. She's not, she's definitely got no lack of self-confidence, even though things should indicate to her that she should be more careful. Kelly replies to Joseph, they've gone plaid. Kelly says, I love how this story is also a nerd geek fest. Yes, because this was one of the things that I wanted to do in this story, and I think that it's lost in a lot of these wonderful, wonderful tales, is that Jace is one of us. He is one of us. If you can imagine that he's read, and watched and seen and tried to write his own sci-fi story, who would not be making comparisons to Star Wars and Star Trek and Mass Effect and all those things? And that's just it. That's what he's doing. He's one of us, and he's given this chance to be one of the heroes he has always read about. And this was from a kid who, quite frankly, had the brains all along to do it and the courage and the goodness, but his body wouldn't let him. And I'm sure a lot of you know this, but for yourselves, there are limitations. I've never been an athletic person. I've just never, never been. And I have various health issues now. And basically I could never be in real life and physical life this type of character. But if I was transformed, I could be. Well, I don't think I'm as good as Jace or as smart as Jace or whatever, but you know what I mean. You know what I'm talking about. Gives one of us a chance to shine. Um, Let's see. Joseph says, I'm scared if she hijacks Osiris to go ludicrous speed. Yes, that's just awesome. Melissa says, I'm pouring myself a blueberry gin. Nice. Nice. Victor Von the Wolf. Victor is like to be call. I'm not quite sure what that means. I'm not understanding things today. I think I need more caffeine. Lurleen says, I know there's an afterlife. First big experience, first husband, father, or was just buried, and we stayed at his mom's at night across the room. I was woken up hearing his father asking if his mother was okay. She was sitting up scared. I told her to tell him she would be okay. My ex first husband, he slept through it all. Fascinating. I know I love the love stories. I love when people have like explain their own paranormal experiences, and it's like they're completely believable. I mean, these people don't have any reason to lie about this kind of stuff, and it just gives me some hope. I am in the Jace boat. I want to believe, but I fear there's nothing. That's been my feeling all life, but I wish. Kelly says Jace hasn't had his breakdown yet. He will. Actually, he's going to next chapter. We'll find out. Marina says he definitely needs one. It's healthy so long as he has a safe place to pick himself back up again. Yes, we will be seeing that next. Hannah says Jace is using what he knows to understand and make sense of new information. We all do it. Exactly. Exactly. Joseph, I'd have hella shell shock. Yes. The thing is, I would say what's going on, he's been trained so thoroughly that he is able to sort of do this and emotionally distance, which he is doing, which he is accepting. His anger is allowing him to move, but also keep him calm. He will have an emotional break, though. He will have a breakdown, which is coming. Not a bad breakdown, but a just like I'm gonna go in my room, shut the door in the dark, and eat bad food, and nobody. I need to just be left alone, which is gonna cause some stuff. Victor says I like to be called Von the Wolf. Okay, I will try to remember that. In any event, one more drink, and then let me go finish up chapter 22. That will be so crazy. We'll get that done in a second. Another drink. So get prepared, guys. Scary stuff coming. Okay. Jace had paused by 3 slits. Much brighter amber light, almost a golden light now, was painted over the front of his helmet. Khoth was perplexed as he stared at what appeared to be a reflection of something moving. You're in the core chamber! Gehenna's excitement came out in her exclamation point use. There should be a central pillar where the hive gets its energy and... Gehenna. Jace's voice was so strange. Oh, oh my, that's not what I was expecting, Gehenna cried. Khoth came up to get Jace and looked out the slits himself. The duct they were in was one of many that, like the spokes of a wheel, were all leading to the center of this large, round room. The duct was no longer hidden beneath the floor or sandwiched between rooms, but instead was suspended in the air. Khoth saw that this room took up the entire height of the hive. Hundreds of ducts were above and below them. They all led to a central pillar of sorts. Khoth wasn't sure what he had expected. After everything they'd seen of the cool technology, which was organic, why had he thought that their main processor for the hive would be something else? It pulsed and fluttered as electrical surges ran through it. It was membranous, perhaps hollow inside, and golden light surged and passed all along its length, then spread out into the walls of the chamber. Cetixes were everywhere. They crawled on every duct, using them as bridges to the pillar. Gehenna! Jace's voice was a rough whisper. How the hell is this going to work? That's I don't know what that is, but this chip can't insert into it. No, it can. It will. What you're seeing is just an outer shell that will dissolve once you place it against the pillar, she stated. It'll insert itself. I can't believe we have to touch that thing, Jace muttered. Well, at least the duct goes all the way up to it. Gehenna, what is this duct used for? Khoth asked. He had moved his foot, and what had come up was some kind of slime. It wasn't a gloopy mass of the sticky, gluey material that he'd encountered in far lesser quantities farther back in the duct. I'm not sure. Air, circulation of air, or some kind of fluid, perhaps? Khoth asked. Or could it be a passageway for... I don't really... There was a tapping of hundreds of legs. A sea tick suddenly walked right in front of the duct slits. Both of them reared back. It hadn't seen them, but Khoth's heart rate had doubled. You don't think the sea ticks crawl through here, do you? Jace had turned towards him, and the young man's eyes were huge. Is that what you were asking her? No, they are too large, I think. Khoth stopped speaking as he heard a far more soft sound. A slurping, suctioning sound that came from up ahead, from the living pillar. Khoth unsheathed his Rahir slowly as he scanned the darkness ahead. Jace had whirled around too. Both of them were holding their breath as they waited for what neither of them knew. Khoth's gaze was drawn to the slits again as he saw movement on the outside of the membranous pillar. Some things, were slithering around the outside of the pillar. They had clear sacs and almost delicate-looking crystalline pincers on the end of their 8 legs. They were traveling over the outside of the pillar and were doing something to it, massaging it, lubricating it. Whatever they were doing, they moved constantly. Some of them are in the duct, Khoth realized. This is not a duct, Jace, Khoth told him as he saw the half-dozen crystalline sac creatures coming towards them, leaving a trail of slime. No, it is not, Jace agreed. Without further need for discussion, the two of them raced towards the creatures. Backing up was not an option. Waiting to see what the creatures' defenses were also was not an option. Throwing themselves headlong into a silent, desperate battle, only option. The creatures reared back on their delicate limbs as they realized that two beings about 5 times their size were barreling towards them with glowing rahirs. They would have to be careful not to hit one another when they swung their blades, as the duct was barely wide enough for the two of them. Jace made a stabbing rather than sweeping motion with his rahir, which punctured the nearest creature's sac. There was a pop as the sac burst, and fluid poured out onto the floor of the duct. Khoth nearly slipped in the slickness, and the tip of his rahir bobbled, but he managed to nick 2 of the creature's sacs. More fluid, more sticky slipperiness. That took out only half of them. The others were making these high-pitched shrieks now, their cries echoing in the duct as they raced back towards the pillar. Oh, hell no, Jace hissed, and the young man picked up speed, nearly elbowing Khoth out of the way. We have to get them before they attract the others. There was a boom behind them, and the duct wobbled as something large landed directly on top of them. Khoth had only a second to roll away from a sudden claw that punctured the top of the duct, right where his head had been moments ago. It was made by one of the sea ticks' pointy legs that were more like hundreds of curved sabers. They know we are here, Khoth said. You think? Jace laughed. Run, full out. We must get to the virus to the pillar. Khoth grasped Jace around the waist and practically carried the young man as he ran full speed down the duct. The crystalline creatures were destroyed with a sweep of his rahir, but the shrieks they had given out were now being echoed throughout the entire room by others of their kind. There were more booms as sea ticks landed on top of the duct. He heard a crunching sound and knew that the way back was no longer open to them. The end of the duct was in sight. The glow from the pillar was almost blinding. His helmet shield darkened the view, so he was able to see quite clearly the sea tick's head that appeared in the opening, blocking their view of the pulsing pillar of flesh. Don't slow down, Jace cried. Jace had brought up the Dragavas and started shooting. The sea tick's head exploded, and they both saw the centipede body slip off the edge of the duct and fall away. It was then that Khoth realized the duct ended in midair. There was just the fleshy pillar and the air. Khoth screeched to a halt, stopping them at the last moment from running right over the edge and falling to their deaths. What are we going to do? Jace asked as he stared at the pillar and then at the ducks that were seething now with sea tixes, making a rattling noise as their chit and armor clacked together. There was another boom, and the duck they were in started suddenly lurching downwards, nearly spilling them out of its limited security. The weight of the sea tixes coming towards them was breaking it. Idea! Idea! I have an idea! Jace cried. Jace shoved his Drogvas into Khoth's hands while he brought out the virus chip. The fleshy pillar was within reach. With a look of disgust, Jace slammed the chip against the pillar. The blue chip flared and then broke apart. Black lines suddenly spread out across the pillar's outside. The pillar heaved as if screaming in pain. What is this next part of your idea? Khoth asked. Jump! Jace cried. We've only got 10 minutes to get out of here. And at that, Jace grabbed Khoth's hand, and the two of them jumped from the duct. Woohoo! That is the end of chapter 22. The next chapter is like breathtaking too. It's going to be crazy. Let's see here. Here we go. Crystal says, and lots of junk food. He's got to, yes, Khoth will have lots of junk food. Marina says, shell shock is usually a word used before PTSD was a diagnosable thing. I did not know that. You are so amazing. Thank you, Von the Wolf. Marina says, if we did a drinking game in the live readings, what would we have to drink to? Alcohol optional. My drink of choice is coffee. I say every time Gehenna makes an oops. That's a perfect idea. Joseph says, but I don't want to die. I know, seriously. Alcohol poisoning. Marina says, that's why the alcohol is optional. If no coffee, I drink juice or water. It's just the fun of having a response to a story event. So yes, wait a minute here. I'm getting a message from Kat. Okay. Hold on a second. She's forgotten about the live reading. Okay, hold on a second here. So Marina says, every time Khoth kills the fun, take a drink. That's going to be good. I'll have to do something like that next time. Alex says, the duct is honestly something a giant vomitorium or something even worse. You were better off not knowing, Jace. I think that's true. I think that's so true. Alex says, so many parallels with the Zerg from StarCraft. And I've never actually played StarCraft. Like, I heard that people loved it, but I've never played it. And that's why it just feels like, there is nothing new under the sun. I'm more basing it off of Aliens, definitely. But I think, yeah, that just, those haunt my dreams. Marina says, human response to being stuck between Lynch Mob and the Abyss. Yeah, seriously. Marina's like, jump. Melissa says, oh my God, amazing. Yay. Alex says, I do not want to come in touch with a massive fleshy thing like the pillar. Can you imagine how much it must stink? Also, will we learn what the pillar is and how the chip works? I'm going to be a little hand wavy on it, but yes, we'll learn a little bit more. Hannah says, a little confused about the ending. So he didn't put the drive in the heart, but the duct will carry the virus to the heart? No, Hannah, he slammed the chip against the pillar. And just by simply making physical contact, the actual chip dissolved into the pillar and released the virus. Kelly says, it's an organic computer. It is an organic computer. I wanted it to be very alien. I wanted it to be... I really want it to be something very different for the cool and why they're different and separate. And it also explains why a lot of weapons don't work on them because of this unique organic type of technology. I am not a hard sci-fi person. And I actually had this guy who I had to block him, which was awful, but I felt really bad about it. But he was literally like, he could not get off of the fact that this should have been all very scientifically based. And I'm like, it's not. It's Star Wars, Star Trek, and Mass Effect. There are explosions in space, even though there shouldn't be. There are, like laser guns. There are lots of nonsense, but it's totally fun. And that's why I wanted it. And just give an idea, but it's as I'm not a science person. It's as logical as I can make it. Cabrina says, you wanted it to be very gross. Yes. Yes, I did. I wanted it to be, because I really am like freaked out by insects. And I think that's always been just a thing for me. And so that's the scariest part. And I think Aliens combined the insects and science fiction in a way that was just so amazing. I mean, it's horror, but it's awesome. In any event, I absolutely loved doing this week, as I always do. This is the last live reading for the month. The month's already coming to a close, but remember to check your calendars. There will be like freebies. There will be whatchamacallit. There will be podcast readings and all right. Kelly says it is called science fiction for a reason. I know. But some people they just want hard science fiction, and I think they just can't let go of that. Um, and I don't know why. Like I said, like he was aggressive and insulting in the end, so I had to block him. Normally, I don't care about that stuff. I let people go on, but he was getting a little weird with people. But yeah, so it's just not hard science fiction. That's all. Shaylin says I got to listen to most besides when phone wasn't getting internet in the last 1 minute of the story. So yay, excellent. All right, so I'm going to let you all go. This has been a long session, and I absolutely had a blast with it. I hope you did too. Please, drink a drink to Khoth and Jace as they jump into the unknown. Next month, we will continue on with 4 more chapters. And for those of you who don't know, Empire of Stars is free to read, so it's open for everyone during the pandemic. In any event, take care. I love you all. Bye.